Welcome on in. This is the RotoWire Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, John McKechnie. That is Mario Puig. Go ahead and if you have yet to sign up at RotoWire, check us out. 15% off any subscription when you go to rotowire.com. Use that code YouTube15, and comes in handy here as we reach the stretch run of the baseball season, of course, and the heat of draft season. So today we've got good bit to get to here on this podcast, which is presented by our friends over at Circa, by the way. Got some training camp news and notes to hit quickly before we continue our patented deep dive series with a look at the Jacksonville Jaguars going into this year. But Mario, leading things off, we're kind of looking at up at the top of the board. You know, it's hard to get a ton of movement among first rounders, even this time of year. But it seems like Jahmyr Gibbs may be, like we're seeing that cluster of running backs up at the top: Saquon Barkley, Bijan Robinson, and Jahmyr Gibbs. All three of them, I think, have cases to be the RB1, and I think are all being drafted as such, depending on your particular pod. But what's going on with Gibbs in Detroit that might be something of a tiebreaker when drafters are picking in the top five?
Yeah, I think you and me, John, we're always kind of open to taking Gibbs pretty much anywhere, but the consensus, the broader consensus was more like pick 5, maybe pick 4. And what we might see with news like what's been coming out about Gibbs lately, that might push him more into the top 3 consensus. I assume Jamar Chase won't be dislodged from 1, but from 2 to 5, it I guess had been something of a free for all between like Jefferson, Barkley, Bijan, and you might see Gibbs push not just occasionally into that range, but sort of conventionally into that range for at least a couple reasons. One was there was this the Athletics Detroit cover guy, Colton Pouncey, was sort of not declaring anything by it, but sort of inviting sort of the interpretation that Gibbs has been getting earlier first team reps than he had been last year, and of course David Montgomery's still getting some of them. But according by Pouncey's, who knows what the measurement is, what kind of numbers, percentages he would put on it, but he just suspects Gibbs is getting more first team work ahead of Montgomery specifically than in past years. And then the other thing was, and this has been out a little bit longer now, I believe this is multiple accounts too, had multiple observers, I mean to say, had said Gibbs seemed to be used more as a proper wide receiver this OTAs and training camp, and specifically motioning him out into the slot, out wide, even lining him up out wide at the initial lining up, and then motioning him into the backfield, stuff like that. And those were little wrinkles that weren't in the Ben Johnson offense as much. And if that were to change, if we were able to project more targets basically for Gibbs, then that, especially in this era of PPR and even half point PPR, would do a lot to alleviate any concerns about his rushing count, rushing carry workload, relative to guys like Bijan and Saquon. But if Gibbs is catching something like 75 passes, he doesn't need to be a 300 carry running back to be at least the first fantasy running back and maybe the top player overall. If somehow Gibbs both approaches 300 carries and goes over something like 70 receptions, then it's almost at that point, given how explosive he would likely to be with that usage, it would almost make him likely to finish in something like the top 3, in my opinion, if not first overall. So the things that Robinson and Saquon have going for them that Gibbs doesn't is they have builds more conventionally, designed for that kind of usage, whereas Gibbs, it would probably be asking a lot of him. Even at Georgia Tech, he wasn't like a 30 carry guy. He'd be getting like 12 carries and a bunch of catches per game. So Gibbs might not be able to hold up with it, but he's just such a rare threat with the football, and including as a pass catcher in a way that they haven't gotten going yet in Detroit. And it sort of seems like they're not specifically it's not specifically to say like the Detroit's trying to use Gibbs only the way he was used in the last 4-6 weeks or whatever last year, but even if it's only 15 carries per game as opposed to 20 or whatever, I mean, even if it's only 15 carries per game, the catch count that you saw for Gibbs in those final 6 weeks, 6, 5, 4, 4, 5, 6, Detroit might at the very least be looking at ways that they can keep that as a constant, even if it's not by deleting David Montgomery as like the power specialist.
Yeah, I don't think that Montgomery necessarily gets deleted or anything like that, but I also don't know how, you spend a first round pick on Gibbs a couple years ago, and you kind of see what a full Gibbs offense looks like, down the stretch last year. And it's like, man, how do you put the genie back in that bottle? Like three consecutive 100-yard games to finish the season, including like the monster game against the Vikings when the Lions needed it the most to clinch the top seed in the NFC with 23 carries, 139 yards, and 3 touchdowns, also a receiving touchdown on top of that. Just preposterous stuff. This guy is different. This guy, you need to get him as much work as you're comfortable getting him in, what you can realistically project to put on a frame like his. And you obviously want to keep Montgomery in the mix to keep Gibbs fresh, but like there's little doubt to me that Gibbs is someone that can really kind of elevate this offense in a pretty significant way, especially if the offensive line's a little bit worse and Jared Goff maybe takes a little bit of a step back. Gibbs is a way to kind of like get around that. And so, I think an RB1 type season is definitely in the realm of possibility for him. I've kind of been trying, if I have the opportunities, I've been trying to kind of split my exposure between him and Bijan. I will probably end up being light on Saquon again this year and probably end up feeling really stupid about it, but just a little bit worried about him. I'm more so attuned to go after guys like Bijan and Gibbs, who I think could be having their best seasons as pros this season.
Yeah, it's a tough call with those three. Even with us probably being higher on Gibbs than most people at the start of this offseason, it was definitely a leap of faith thing, and specifically on the pass catching volume question, because he wasn't going to catch Bijan, especially not Saquon, for the carry count. Like, he had to catch up with receiving numbers. And yeah, I know I just mentioned the number 75 receptions as a sort of target or sort of like a golden scenario for Gibbs, but he could be a 100 catch running back, honestly. Like, he should be able to pretty much be Rams era Marshall Faulk. He was getting a little bit less running work and more pass catching work than he did with the Colts, and that's the template. He can do it. He's pretty much that guy.
Yeah, he's something else. I was looking back at Offensive Player of the Year awards historically, and Falk is the last guy to repeat that honor. He actually did it 3 years in a row, which is insane that no one has even repeated in the last 25 or so years. Falk just did it 3 times in a row, but that's how good he was. Did the Madden curse even get him? Like, I feel like he was still good.
I can't remember when he was on the Madden cover, but he was just kind of, I think, incidentally breaking down a little bit. Like, he took a ton of work at San Diego State before he had a lot of work with the Colts, and he had like 324 carries in 1998, and then was 260 or less every year from then, and was kind of getting increasingly nagging injuries as he approached age 30. But yeah, I think the Rams era Falk comparison is really good because he had already started scaling down his rushing usage. Like, he was down to something like 15 carries per game, but he was posting pass catching numbers like peak Austin Eckler, right? So like, Eckler was awesome for that reason. Like, no other running backs in a long time have gotten near that threshold. But the difference between Gibbs and Eckler is that Eckler was only probably no better than like an average pure runner, whereas Gibbs is just lights out whenever he has the ball or whenever he's just running away from somebody. And I think not that it was any like bad reflection on Ben Johnson that they didn't get Gibbs going like that, but if for whatever reason this Morton offensive coordinator, or just because of the way last season ended, if there's just some reason that they try to get Gibbs going like this, I do think it'll be a wrap. Like there's no way you go back from the kind of just memorable, easy big plays he can create. You just don't put that away, at least not until the game's kind of accounted for.
No, no, it's just simply too good. Let's see. I was going to add something to the Falk thing, but I think we've moved far enough past it. But yeah, that's the Gibbs update. So and then I think in the greater context, especially if you're drafting on in half point PPR sites, with Justin Jefferson maybe dealing with a little bit of a hammy, I think that there is reason to maybe if you hadn't already, like start taking Gibbs if he's available to you at like the fourth pick or definitely at the fifth pick. Beyond that, let's move on over to rookie RJ Harvey, a guy who we were big on. You kind of like really started steering the ship for him during the pre-draft process. Really liked his production coming out of UCF, and then tests super well at the combine, and then he kind of gets the perfect landing spot that everyone had kind of circled among this rookie class. Like whichever one of these guys, Henderson, Hampton, whomever, goes to Denver, they should be the guy. And they do bring in J.K. Dobbins, but RJ Harvey landing in Denver, what's been popping off there in camp thus far?
Well, it's just like a quick update, basically, that it appears that Harvey and Dobbins have been the primary first team backs, with the Athletics' Nick Cosmeter reporting that Jaleel McLaughlin had also been sprinkled in with that group. And I guess I'm glad we're bringing this up, not just for the Harvey Dobbins part, because that's just kind of, in my opinion, a no-duh thing. And Sean Payton has said that Sean Payton has already gone out of his way multiple times to say like, oh boy, Harvey sure looks good. And I don't see any reason to doubt him. Anybody who's watched Harvey play football probably has that thought occur within just a couple seconds of watching him. And that's definitely what it was for me. Like I honestly hadn't watched him at UCF before this last college football season ended, because I'm used to there being UCF backs who put up stupid numbers and just don't do anything anyway in the NFL.
The Isaiah Bowsers of the world.
Yeah, I'm used to seeing like, oh, a UCF back with 7.5 yards per carry. Who cares? And I was kind of prepared to have the same take on Harvey, but the second you turn on the tape, it's just like, oh wow, no, this guy's different. You don't see people move like this pretty much ever. And regardless of what his limitations might be, being a smaller back, being a small school guy, I don't know if people are still holding that against him. You can just see he moves like very few people can. And I know we brought up Darren Sproles last week, right? Like another Darren Sproles kind of comp there for Harvey, but he's going to split the workload with Dobbins, because Dobbins is also really good and probably better as like a pure power kind of guy than Harvey is. So it's in the nature of certainly contemporary fantasy media and fantasy Twitter and whatever else to see any kind of report about like this guy first team offense and just totally run with the premise to like whatever belligerent extent possible, and especially whatever suits their priors if it does. But they have to be prepared that neither Harvey nor Dobbins is going to go away unless one of them is hurt. That's the only way the other goes away, because they're both too good and they're just both going to get the ball a lot.
Yeah, I think it makes the most sense for this Broncos team to approach it that way. I think other than the Kamara example, we've seen Peyton be plenty comfortable with different backs, different roles several times throughout his coaching career to draw upon. So now that this kind of creates, there's been some slight movement in the market on underdog. So I want to get your opinion on this. It's two rookies and then a veteran has also gotten the beautiful green arrow that we have on our ADP tracker over at rotowire.com. So RJ Harvey and Trevion Henderson both trending up, both like early sixth round picks, and James Conner actually trending up a little bit inside the fifth round, end of the fifth round. Now is his current ADP. So say you're shopping for a running back, you're shopping for running back 10 times in this range. All three of them are available. How are you divvying that exposure?
In best ball, I don't know how to call it other than a split for Harvey and Connor. I think they're both ideally best ball only running backs, but especially Connor, because with him, it's the concern is he's leaving games with, shoulder sprains and bruised quads or whatever else. With Harvey, the concern is Dobbins. Dobbins can get hurt though. And if Dobbins misses time and you have Harvey in redraft, the best ball thing no longer applies. It's just, no, this guy's golden. Doesn't matter what the format is. Whereas I don't know I ever can get to that level of comfort with Connor. Like, doesn't matter who gets hurt around him. I'm always going to be worried about Connor leaving a game and kind of messing up my redraft box score for that reason. It's actually Henderson who I kind of feel the safest about in a weird way, but I tend not to pick him either because I tend to shoot a little higher for like a proper running back two, and he tends to go more as like a running back two who's fashionable with zero running back drafters. So I'm not really buying in that range much at this point, honestly. I haven't gotten any Harvey shares in a long time, and I've not gotten Connor much. But Connor getting more expensive is just going to make that tougher. So I'm kind of avoiding all of them, but Harvey's got the most upside, I think, just because Dobbins is the one who can. Not that I want this to happen, but Dobbins has been hurt so much. It's it's an ongoing issue.
Right. Yeah. That is a bit of an interesting market shift where Connor was more so in a different tier of running back, you could say, and Joe Mixon with his injury, kind of falling back to the pack as far as his ADP
that
is
could
concerned.
Be pushing those guys up. Actually,
I think that and Judkins both.
Yeah.
That's something that has kind of reshaped the running back market in recent weeks. So now, like, your more value guys are like DeAndre Swift, David Montgomery,
Pacheco.
and Isaiah Pacheco.
Yeah. I wanted to say really quickly though, the McLaughlin part, I would not read into at all. Like, I'm seeing people already say like, oh, I guess he's the running back 3 and he's competing with whatever for the running back 2. No, I bet he's not going to make the team personally. Like, Estime is clearly carved out as like the power specialist guy. Jaleel McLaughlin's just a really bad version of RJ Harvey. Just if you took Harvey and made him like a completely gadget only player, that's McLaughlin. And they'd be better off trading him for literally anything than holding him around because he can't play for them right now.
Oof. Well, all right. So bear that in mind. This is not the Jaleel McLaughlin fan club. Not here. Before we get on over to our big topic of the day, talking about the Jags, got a message from our friends over at Circa. Look right at the camera while I do this. Circa Million and Circa Survivor are back with a massive $21 million in guaranteed prizes. Circa Million pick 5 games against the spread each week, 18 weeks of action with 126 ways to win. $1 million for the winner and $6 million guaranteed. And then with Circa Survivor, you get 1 pick a week, no point spread. You last the longest to win it all. At least $15 million guaranteed. You can enter in Nevada, play from anywhere, $21 million guaranteed. Visit circasports.com for details. Also got a message from our friends at Vegas Football Proxy. Do you want to enter the greatest pro football contests in the world? I just told you about one. The Circa Million and the Circa Survivor contest in Nevada offer massive $21 million in prize money, and Vegas Football Proxy can help you play in these awesome contests. Vegas Football Proxy is based in Las Vegas and offers proxy services for customers all over the country. Sign up at the Circa Resort and Casino in Las Vegas and then play from anywhere with Vegas Football Proxy. The folks at VFP are experienced professionals. They are 100% reliable and provide outstanding customer service. The submission process is easy to use and ensures accurate and timely pick submissions. Tom Carroll and his team at VFP have been serving contest players for more than a decade and have helped countless clients achieve their dreams, from just being able to compete in a Vegas contest all the way to winning the Circa Survivor. If you want to Take a shot at $21 million in prize money. Visit vegasfootballproxy.com/rotopod. That's ROTOPOD. When you go to vegasfootballproxy.com for more details. And last, we got a message from our friends over at Fantrax. Is there something you wish your fantasy football league had, or features that are missing from your current leagues, like bonus scoring, custom schedules, or playoffs, deeper team settings? Well, look no further, because we have you covered with our friends over at Fantrax. Fantrax is a platform in the industry offering the greatest fantasy experience for your dynasty, keeper, redraft, and best ball leagues. Fantrax even offers college fantasy football leagues. I think the Roto staff one is coming up here soon. And I'm in, I think, the 45th round of a 60-round college fantasy football draft. Where else could I do that but Fantrax, of course? Create or join a fantasy football commissioner league, invite your friends, and dominate your draft this season. Fantrax is the top dynasty fantasy football platform in the industry. Fantrax is running a special promotion that you don't want to miss. Sign up for free at fantrax.com/rotowire today for your chance to win a signed Ja'Marr Chase jersey. Simply create a new league or bring over your existing leagues for more chances to win. Simply go to fantrax.com/rotowire and sign up today. Fantrax, the home of fantasy sports. Whew, out of breath. There's a lot of great messages from our good friends over at Circa and VFP and Fantrax. Let's get talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I want to start things off, I think, with not necessarily their most highly drafted player, which, of course, is Brian Thomas, someone that you'll see go at the end of the first round in a lot of spots, or at least right at the 1-2 turn. I want to talk about Travis Hunter because, there's obviously pretty much everything that he does on the field there in Jacksonville is going to be looked at with a microscope and reported upon for us to interpret or misinterpret one way or the other. So what is your kind of latest read on what role the Jaguars are formulating for the former Heisman Trophy winner?
I'm not sure. I don't know how sure they can be either. I think they pretty clearly bought into the premise that Hunter can not only play two ways, but can start both ways to some extent, or at least to some extent play on both sides of the ball enough to make that trade make sense, to not just move up from 4 to 2 and spend that second pick. But what they traded to move up those two spots was basically the ransom you pay for a franchise quarterback in that spot. Like if you're trading up from 4 to 2 because Eli Manning went 1 and Phillip Rivers is going to go 2, that's the kind of price you pay for that privilege. So the idea of Hunter being good enough to be worth that trade as either a corner or a receiver purely does not get off the ground, in my opinion, especially the receiver part. Like the idea, like he would have to be the best wide receiver prospect ever to be worth that trade, and he's not even close. He's not Megatron. He's not Ja'Marr Chase. He's not even like a Rome Odunze. Certainly not a Malik and Neighbors. So, and I keep going back to this and it's not meant to read as backhanded or any sort of slight. As a receiver, Travis Hunter is basically Devontae Smith, and Devontae Smith is probably something like a top 20 NFL wide receiver, and he's very good, and he's capable of taking over games at times. He's still not close to Ja'Marr Chase. He's still not worth, he's still not Megatron. He's still not worth the second overall pick, let alone the 4th overall pick and whatever they traded to get that second pick. So I think the Jaguars rationalized it by saying, like, we're getting a really good receiver and corner, which I feel like that alone is a pretty hasty thing to believe or take as likely, because this has never been done, or not since, I don't know, Jim Thorpe, not since when football players got paid like $20,000 a year to get kicked in the head every single play with no helmet on, did someone play as much as Travis Hunter is supposed to. And I don't think anyone honestly believes he's a better receiver than a corner. He was primarily a corner before he added on receiver, and the Jaguars themselves said, and a lot of people have been pitching this the exact opposite of what they said it was. They said he had to practice at receiver when they initially drafted him because he was farther behind there than he was at corner. And you saw a lot of people in fantasy media on, whatever, Twitter and these Discord chats going, see, they said he's going to play receiver. He's practicing at receiver because they want him to play there. It's like they literally said he is better at corner, and that's why. And if you present that as meaning anything other than what they said, you're invested in the premise and you're just trying to see it one way. So the what happens then if he plays corner at all? That's, I guess, what I don't know how much Hunter's current ADP, how much the people pushing him, especially in redraft, I'm not sure how much they've thought this through practically, because if Hunter needs to play corner to justify himself, and if he's farther along at corner than he's at receiver, how are the Jaguars ever going to give up a touchdown on defense when he's on the bench without Liam Cohen getting roasted in the press after the game? Even if they don't lose, but especially when they lose a game because Hunter was on the bench and they give up a game-winning touchdown, that might be the last time you ever see him taking a break on defense ever again. And people are just sort of saying, like, no, he's a game changer at receiver. They have a better receiver already. They have Brian Thomas. Whatever Hunter is going to be, he's not going to be as good as Hunter as Thomas already is. So it's been a lot of fan fiction, in my opinion, and of course I could end up being just horrifically wrong about this, and that's why I'm not generally calling it fan fiction. I'm not declaring it fan fiction. It's only what I suspect. But to the people who just take it as like an easy assumption that, oh, well, he won't play defense that much, I would challenge them to actually find any evidence at all that that's the case, because there is none. And if he's playing corner, and especially so the Travis Kelce comment, right, saying if they play him at corner, people are just going to put their distance runners on him and make him go running to the corner, the end zone corner.
Yeah, straight tire him out.
Go routes. That's all you're getting. And then I think it was Eric Mangini on some show was saying, well, that's nonsense because you're not going to have your number one receiver just running go routes all day. You got to throw them the ball. And the Mangini thing is it's like a loaded response, because it's like Kelce didn't take it for a given that Hunter would be on the shadowing the number one receiver for the other team. But if he is, and Kelce could have countered Mangini's comment easily enough if he had been there. But if you are responding to the concern about the go routes just to exhaust Hunter, the only way around that is to have him shadow the other team's number one receiver. And if you have a corner shadowing the number one receiver from the other team, you don't want that guy getting tired. You can't have Ja'Marr Chase on Travis Hunter and Travis Hunter lose a step on a play because he's too tired from playing 40 snaps on offense. And the people who say, like, he's just different, he's just going to do it. Okay, maybe he is literally the first ever to do this. But in the meantime, I bet if you just did like a retroactive, like all these Travis Hunters of the future that there are going to be now could have existed already if it were an accepted football premise that, like, well, just take your number one corner and have him play receiver too. It's easy. If someone had just tried that before, Deion Sanders could have done it. Terrence Newman could have done it. Chris Gamble could have done it. Adoree Jackson probably could have done it. There's a long list of guys who could have played receiver but didn't, because the convention was just, well, you got to play corner. You're not trying to break your shoulder before you go on offense tackling a running back. You're not going to try to go out and run for a touchdown on offense after you've been covering the other team's best receiver the last drive. And now the Jaguars and a lot of other people are sort of just going, well, what if no? And I guess it's possible, but I think what you'll find is there is a mortal limit to how much football you can play in a short amount of time at the highest level on earth. And again, against the best players, and you could go against a top corner on offense or a top receiver on defense, and you're going to get roasted. The coach is going to get roasted when there's a slip up on either side, but especially on defense, because that's where, like, why was Buster Brown on the, well, he's hurt now, but like, why was Jerry and Jones on Ja'Marr Chase in this last drive? Or why was Travis Hunter on Ja'Marr Chase for the game-winning touchdown when he was clearly tired from playing receiver the last drive? These kinds of things I don't think Gladstone thought about at all, and I think the fantasy community is thinking about it even less.
I not gonna lie, I thought Buster Brown was just like a pseudonym you were making up for just some random
Monteric is his proper name, I believe.
It's cool that he goes by Buster Brown, though. Respect to that. But You do bring up the good point with the Kelsey, quote and example, and how it cuts against the Mangini thing as well. And I will say, bad movie, the new Happy Gilmore, but Travis Kelsey did deliver the Arnold Palmer joke with expertise. I thought his comedic timing and delivery what was pretty good on that, despite me not being the biggest Travis Kelsey guy. I thought that was pretty good. But no, point well taken when it comes to this Travis Hunter dilemma. And yeah, I think like I hadn't really heard a lot of people give real life kind of examples and possibilities as to what it really looks like during the season with Travis Kelsey. It's been very kind of like short-sighted, but specific examples like him being totally worn out and then having to go cover someone like Jahmyr Chase like that and getting cooked for it. That's that is something that Cohen is probably gonna. It's like you do that once and that's it. Type of thing. So and then all of a sudden the fantasy angle for and appeal for Travis Hunter goes away pretty quickly.
I will say though, if Brian Thomas gets hurt and misses time, then I think they basically pull Hunter from corner entirely and
Yeah.
have him be the number one receiver. But if Thomas is healthy and you have guys like Dyami Brown, even Parker Washington, Brenton Strange, plus what would hopefully be like a functional run game, that should be enough because Brian Thomas should be capable of something like 1,600 yards. This guy is not just some receiver prospect they have laying around. He's clearly far ahead of Hunter now, future, whenever. And you see like some of the Hunter rationalization at receiver is almost like, well, they have to get him out there. He might even be better than Thomas. I mean, Thomas was a 17th pick or 23rd, and Hunter went second, and they traded all this capital for him, and he's only playing receiver. We just got the quote that he's only playing receiver. It's like the actual quote says he's playing receiver now because he needs to catch up because he's farther behind there in that corner, but who cares? Just say whatever you want. And I think, once something like that gets out, it's hard to get people to let go of it. Even if you get someone to admit like, oh, okay, I see that was a false reported thing, they'll still be like, well, I'm already attached to the ideas, so like you're a bummer. You're harshing the mellow, dude. I think that Thomas going for something like 1,600 yards, Dyami Brown going for something like 800, Parker going for 500, 600, Brenton Strange going 600, 700. That's good enough. And in fact, if Hunter gives the Jaguars so much, I keep bringing up this general threshold to watch for, and I think it's correct to say that if Hunter has so much as 700 yards receiving, or 800, maybe even 900, he would probably be an MVP candidate if he was also starting at corner. If he's starting at corner and he gives them 500 yards, it would still be like, wow, this is maybe the best player in the league. If he's also playing corner. But if he's just a receiver, then he's just Devontae Smith, not just as a general comparison, but right down to the, also he doesn't really have much to do as long as AJ Brown's healthy part, with Brian Thomas being the AJ Brown.
Oof. Well done tying that off all the way through. Love that. Before we get on to the next element of this Jags offense, we're going to talk about the backfield because that's also been one where it's been a big test of people's training camp literacy. We do have a message from our friends over at Blue Wire. Okay, onward. So as it stands, when it comes to the ADP over on Underdog, Travis Etienne still the leader in the clubhouse, going at pick 94. Bhayshul Tuten pick 133, but he's trending down a little bit because Tank Bigsby seems to be trending up at least a bit lately. Although he's still someone that's going at like the end of the 13th round, but I'm sure that there's some drafts happening right now where he's going a bit earlier than that. So just a quick refresh here on what to expect from this backfield. That I'm starting to get worried that it's just going to be real muddy. Like there's not going to be any one guy that really ends up like returning value at their respective ADP.
Yeah, that's a fair concern. I think it's also possible though that they all can somewhat pay off or are at least all well justified picks at their current ADP. I do think there is some confusion about who these players are and what they actually do. A lot of this stuff kind of gets flattened when people just talk about ADP and try to outsource all brain activity to coach quotes and whatever other metrics they might have laying around. But Travis Etienne is the best of these three players if he's healthy. There's no debate at all about it. People have no attention span if they're going to say something like, well, Bigsby showed he's better last year, and also Etienne was ranked the 62nd most elusive running back by PFF or whatever. Like, okay, well, how did the 62nd most elusive running back in the NFL have 4 40-yard carries on 220 attempts in 2022? Like, oh, I guess he got really old at age 25. Like, no, he had a small sample last year, and he played hurt for almost all of it. He was playing through, I want to say a shoulder thing and a hamstring thing or a foot thing. I can't remember. But there were two things that Etienne was playing through. And that segues into the actual problem with Etienne, which is that, yes, he is fragile. So if someone's saying, I want to fade Etienne because I think he's made of glass, it's like, fine. There's precisely nothing someone could say to argue back against that. But if you're saying Tank Bigsby is the better runner, like, no, he had that game against the Colts and that game against the Patriots. And the Patriots game, I don't know, it'd be understandable if no one watched it. I think that was a London one, maybe. The Patriots.
Oh God, it was.
And they were just gassed and they gave up. And you could see even the garbage Jaguars offensive line was just eating this front seven alive. And Bigsby got his carries in that context, and he had a fluky couple long carries against the Colts like the week before or a couple weeks before that. Like Zach Moss had that like 160-yard game against the Titans, and last year everybody went into the season like, oh, he's actually a big play. Some people while he was with the Colts were saying he's a better big play threat than Jonathan Taylor lately. Like this isn't how reality occurs. This is not how meaning is determined. It's just a crazy thing to say. I really wish more football, like fantasy football, dynasty football, people would watch baseball or like become vaguely familiar with it. Just the concept of, sample sizes, because baseball really lets you see it better because there are extremes, right? It's like you'll see like this guy who you think is good go whatever, like 2 for 30, and you start thinking like, does he actually suck? And then it's like, yeah, you get to 150 plate appearances and it corrects, and you're like, oh wait, no, never mind. That's exactly what we thought would happen. It just took a little longer. It was just a little bit more harrowing of a route than we might have preferred, but it got to where we had reason to think it would over enough time. When you take football in general, it's a small sample game. 17 games is not a long season. Guys get hurt in some of those games. Momentous points in game scripts can flip on single drives, single points, of the game flow can hold great sway over what happens from there. And you can miss a lot when you don't just kind of put yourself through the thought of experiment of like, well, what if Etienne had those carries against Indianapolis and the Patriots? You can go watch Etienne play last year. He didn't have anywhere to run. It's not like he's running a 4.6 and getting caught. It's just the Press Taylor offense was incredibly predictable. The Jags offensive line was bad, and Etienne was playing hurt. So yeah, he had crap numbers. But if he isn't hurt, he's the same guy who had the 5 40-yard carries in 220 attempts. So four. So he's still that guy if he's healthy. And if he is healthy, Etienne starts. But even as like an Etienne proponent, I would say, and I've always said, you don't want him taking 20 carries a game. You don't really want to use him that much on power concepts either. You want to use Etienne like 14, 15 carries, reap the benefit of the big plays, and then rest him so that he's not getting overexposed. And of course, in 2023, the Jaguars overworked him, and his rushing yardage came down, and he played hurt a bunch. And then he got even more hurt in 2024, just kind of by bad luck, and then playing through it instead of actually resting up. So if Etienne is healthy, I think he takes something resembling maybe the Bucky Irving role. I don't think there was a Tank Bigsby on the Tampa Bay roster last year, which is to say like a power specialist. I don't think Bigsby's particularly good as a power specialist, but he should take those power concept carries to spare Etienne those collisions. And I do think Bigsby will do that. If Etienne gets hurt, it's possible Bigsby starts for some amount of time over Tuten, because Tuten, even though he's really interesting and I think he's some version of good, he's still a rookie. In college as a ball carrier, he was always kind of wild. He has a kind of like a careening running style, and he's got plenty of aggression, plenty of physical strength too. But Tuten being on time for anything in particular might be a challenge. Being on time in the blitz pickup, being punctual with when he's supposed to set up his blocks and this key or that, he might kind of just go. I think it's in Tuten's nature to just kind of burn hot all the time. And I think part of the challenge that Liam Cohen is taking on with developing Tuten is trying to get him to sort of harness that explosiveness and be a little more deliberate and punctual with how he uses it. So I think with doubts like that, potentially slowing Tuten in the short term, and especially the beginning of the year, I can see a scenario where if Etienne pulls a hammy or whatever, then Bigsby could be starting. So that's why I'm saying I think Etienne makes some sense just because I think he's the best player of the three, but it also makes sense to take Bigsby given Etienne's durability history and given Tuten's the fact that he's an unproven rookie who fumbled a bunch in college. But Tuten also makes some sense because if Etienne gets hurt, Tank Bigsby over a bigger sample is going to be a plotting runner. He won't have the explosiveness that people are dreaming up from that Colts and Patriots game last year. He's going to trend toward 4 yards a carry or less. And if the Jaguars are looking for a big play in the run game and they're sort of, they're like, we need a spark. We need somebody to do something. Bigsby's, he's got 15 carries for 45 yards. What are we going to do? They might turn to Tuten in a situation like that and just say like, whatever, he can't block or whatever, but we need a play, give him the ball. And if Tuten gets an opening, he will be gone. He does have ridiculous speed and he's got plenty of motor. He's not afraid of contact or anything. If the opening's there, Tuten will hit it as hard as he can. And if the safeties aren't ready, he'll run right past them. And if that happens, then Bigsby might be toast. So not toast, I should say, but they'd see it as like, sure, it might be whatever, a pain in the ass to get Tuten ready for the game plan, but like we need these 60-yard touchdowns. We can't turn this down.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like the exact same like Devin Achane analog, but like there's elements that are similar, of course, when it comes to Tuten and that speed. So yeah, I think that you kind of sold me on. I really just like, especially earlier on when Tuten was going ahead of Travis Etienne, like the market is kind of like
that was
reversed.
A bit much.
Yeah, that was crazy. So at that juncture, I was just like out on Tuten, but I think reframing it now where he's like a 11th round type of pick. Yeah, I think I can.
There are definitely worse lottery tickets you could chase, as long as you understand it's a lottery ticket and not like a sound investment. But just the same, don't go drafting Tuten and then cutting him in week 3 because he hasn't played yet. Like hold on to him all year if you're going to draft him.
Right, or be ready for the guy in your league to drop him prematurely and be ready to pounce on that. Yes. in Fab. I think I've reached like a good enough exposure rate to Ray Davis where I'm ready to start dabbling in some more Bhayshul Tuten here as draft season continues to heat up. Still don't have any Tank Bigsby. I don't know if I'll get there or not.
I don't have much of any of these guys, honestly. I thought I would end up with a ton of Etienne, but sometimes sometimes people beat me to it, and I'm trying to keep in mind exposure rates this year.
Oh no, Etienne, you've been crushed down to normal.
Sellout. Yeah, Etienne is the kind of like classic case where it's like don't go over whatever 25% or so. Like maybe go less than that if you can, but can I? I don't know.
It's yeah, the catnip. You just want more, but yeah, I think that's fair. Breakdown of this backfield. Let's talk about how we've gone about drafting these guys over in best ball specifically. Oh, actually, before then, did you draft any of them in your NFFC stream?
No. Yeah, these guys all definitely profile better for best ball because even Tuten, it's like if Etienne's on short-term IR with whatever, an MCL sprain or something, and you got that Bhayshul Tuten lottery ticket kind of, burning a hole in your pocket, and you're like, oh, this is the week it's going to happen. He's projected for 29 snaps, and that's all he needs. And you'd be right. You'd be correct to suspect like something explosive could happen here, but he also might get 4 carries for 28 yards and like 2 screen passes for 25 yards. And you won't know, there won't be like an announcement from Bhayshul Tuten's whatever Instagram page or whatever he might have that like, oh, this is the week that I'm going to have an 80-yard touchdown. He won't do the Jamal Lewis thing. He won't say, I'm going to break the National Football League's single game rushing yardage record today before he does. You'll just have to sort of guess right. And but if Bigsby and Etienne are both out, then it's like, okay, well, now I guess it can't really go wrong, or can only go so wrong. So yeah, Etienne, it's like a variation of the James Conner thing where, sure, if he's healthy, he can go nuts, but he can also leave drives and sit out for drives while getting whatever tended to by the trainers. He can leave games early. He can miss games, certainly. So I was the reason I'm saying this is the NFC draft that I just did was a redraft league. Like it wasn't best ball. So Etienne, Bigsby, Tuten are all less interesting to me in redraft than they are in best ball. But yeah, I think I definitely don't want Travis Hunter in redraft either. He's also a best ball only. So I guess what I'll say is Brian Thomas is the only Jags conventionally drafted Jaguars player that I am prepared to start every week in redraft. And part of why I don't like Hunter there is like with the price that you pay, you pretty much have to start him too, but it could go really wrong, and trying to guess when it will go wrong versus right could be a fool's errand. So for me, it's pretty much just Brian Thomas, and then the rest of those guys are best ball, and Trevor Lawrence included, because as much as I'd be kind of morbidly curious about an NFFC team with Trevor Lawrence as my quarterback one, in the draft that I did, I took Joe Burrow. And once I have someone like Joe Burrow, it's like, well, why even pick a second quarterback? Mm-hmm. There's a case, of course, because if Burrow gets hurt, I'm going to be like, oh, why didn't I pick Trevor? But my team would also kind of just be toast at that point, because I also picked Ja'Marr Chase first overall. So I kind of was forced to go with like kind of like, I guess, like a tournament brained approach right there. But easier yet in best ball. Like I love getting Trevor Lawrence as a quarterback too. Just I have to stop doing it actually.
I actually just pulled off the Bengals stack in the DraftKings $20 best ball
sick
tournament yesterday's. So it was Chase, then Chase Brown, and then Joe Burrow. I really lucked out there. The guy that could have sniped me had already taken Josh Allen, so I was in the clear at that point. But to kind of review how I've approached the Jags, my most drafted Jaguar on Underdog, Brenton Strange. I don't know. He's on a fifth of my teams.
Pretty good. I mean, especially if you're already drafting Trevor, then that's a reason. It's almost literally a reason to just raise Strange's projection as the utility of the utility that he'd offer in that case of, cutting off your opponents from catching your Trevor points, and you amplify your own Trevor points. It's doubling down on the script that you're betting on, that if Lawrence has a big season, and if he has a good game, like Strange, his probabilities go up almost necessarily the same.
Yeah, so I have like 2/3 of my Brenton Strange teams are also Trevor Lawrence teams. So it's definitely something where I'm trying to
he should be
add pieces.
I mean, I think Strange is a good player. With a guy like him, the danger is almost like, is he too good of a blocker? Or is Cohen gonna have him do like just the blocking stuff that George Kittle does? Or is he going to be more like, well, Cade Otton did a lot of blocking too, but
right? Yeah,
at least he had his spike games when Evans got hurt.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I was just kind of wondering your thoughts on like what transfers over for this offense this year from Tampa, especially when it comes to the tight end, and yeah, I mean it wasn't a tight end centric offense there in Tampa, but you had guys like Chris Godwin for at least the beginning of the year, Mike Evans, and then Jalen McMillan breaking out down the stretch. I mean, we've seen Trevor Lawrence have a good rapport with tight ends before, although it was kind of like spammy what was going on with him and Evan Ingram at the end of the couple of seasons ago, and there was like nobody
Press Taylor
left.
offense.
Yeah,
it's just one big non-applicable.
So you want to burn the smush stick in that locker room to get rid of the bad spirits and everything like that of Press Taylor. But it's just I can, especially at cost, I can talk myself into seeing Brenton Strange being useful 3 to 4 times, and that's about what you need. And if this offense does pop, I think he ends up being a part of it because once you get past Brian Thomas, you're kind of short on totally sure things, and Brenton Strange included. And then someone that you kind of turned me on to was Dyami Brown, who did finished the year pretty strong last year in Washington. Really kind of came alive at a time when he needed to. He was kind of famously one of the guys that was drafted in front of Amon-Ra St. Brown, and St. Brown's like,
and Nico Collins, I think.
Yeah, it's like, hey, what has this guy done? And then he ends up waking up and with everything we've talked about with Travis Hunter, is it sneakily, a decent possibility here that Dyami Brown is second on the team in targets?
I don't think he'll be second in targets, but I do think he'll be second or first in wide receiver snaps. The reason he won't have the target, top 2 output either way is Dyami Brown's definitely going to get stuck with the highest average depth of target between himself, Thomas, and Hunter and Parker Washington. So what that means is it's kind of like last week we were talking about the Kyle Williams limitation. Like he'll basically have to get stuck with the routes that occupy a safety, the coverage shell downfield, so that Stephon Diggs and Hunter Henry can get open more often. Like that's Dyami Brown's actual role with the Jaguars is, well, to be fair, Liam Cohen said that he also likes Dyami Brown on like boundary screens, but in any case, Dyami Brown is just a high-low boundary specialist. Like he's not really running slants over the middle. He's more so staying on the boundary, the perimeter, and he's apparently Cohen likes him a lot on those boundary screens. Which, if so, that's gravy, I guess. That's kind of how the Broncos were using Marvin Mims last year. Is like he'd only play outside, and he'd either get a screen or he'd run a go route, And that's kind of what Brown will do. So his primary function is to keep the defense honest and keep the safety from crashing down on Thomas, Hunter, the run game. But defenses will get greedy sometimes, or they'll take their chances occasionally. And if Dyami Brown's left in single coverage, then I think Trevor has the green light, the instructed quick green light. Like if you see that, go for it. And I think Dyami Brown showed at UNC that he can make plays like that too. Did a little bit with Washington as well. So I think Brown will play something like 800, 850, maybe even 900 snaps, but he'll probably only get a target every 10 snaps or something like that. Whereas Thomas and especially Hunter will probably draw a target like every 5.5 snaps or something.
So you kind of need this all to click for it to work, but you're drafting him so late. He's going around pick 190 to where you don't need him to like be in your lineup every single week. But if this is a Jaguars offense that looks somewhat similar to what it did in 2022, and Trevor Lawrence looks like the guy that we all thought he could be coming into the NFL out of Clemson, then yeah, he's a guy that's going to support multiple options in best ball. And again, like you don't need to pay an exorbitant price to see if that can happen in the case of Dyami Brown. Whereas like, you look at some of the other receiving options, and it's like as much as I like Darius Slayton, like I just don't like I don't see an upside case for this Giants passing game that quite the same way that I could with like Dyami Brown and Jacksonville or Michael Wilson.
I'm kind of taking both, honestly. Like in best ball, I try to get both of those.
I knew I was kind of stepping in it by
no, not really. No, because I mean, I definitely have a lot more faith in. I am not at all deterred on Trevor Lawrence, not even a little bit. I think he's clearly a top 10 quarterback, but and of course, I would not say that about Russell Wilson. I just think Darius Slayton's been doing it every year now, even with like bums, even with the backups of Daniel Jones throwing to him. He still gets those, 3-catch, 100-yard, 1-touchdown games. And if you get that for free in best ball, that's just perfect. Between Dyami Brown and Darius Slayton, you might have something like 7 or 8 startable weeks in best ball, and they just don't cost anything.
Whereas another guy going in that range, and that I don't mean to be like a hater or like sour grapes, but like Michael Wilson, I'd rather watch paint dry, I think.
Yeah, it sucks in my opinion because I actually think Michael Wilson is good, but the Cardinals' offense is one of the most just abhorrent the schemes that I hate are not all hated for the same reason. Like Press Taylor, I hate because he's predictable. I can figure out the plays before they happen, like Tony Romo in the booth, and I don't know. I never played quarterback. I hate that when I can know the plays before they happen. And Press Taylor was just the easiest thing. But in the case of Arizona, they just have a stupid theory. Like the theory makes no sense. It doesn't. There's no step one to it even beyond just like it's question mark profit. Like there's not even the underpants part before the question in between. It's just question mark profit, and they're making keeping things in Darius Slayton terms because it's the best way to explain any analogy. The Cardinals have made the choice to use Marvin Harrison as Darius Slayton and Trey McBride as Malik Neighbors, basically. And they have Michael Wilson sort of just hovering in the periphery, also getting double teamed by a safety and doing nothing with it. But if they got rid of Greg Dortch in the slot, moved Michael Wilson to the slot, got a fast guy to line up in the boundary, then everybody could cook. Harrison, Wilson, everybody. But instead, the Cardinals are run by the people that they are, and they are going to suck. They're going to be they might be able to run the ball, but they're going to suck as a passing game. Terrible, terrible, terrible crap. Greg Dortch, Zay Jones, garbage.
Yeah, man, is no good.
So I love Wilson, but I am not interested in even one share, honestly.
I can't believe Andre Bocelli's on a roster still. I mean, last year, all the snaps you could possibly hope, like the playing time theory for Wilson, totally correct last year. He had 4 games in half point PPR in which he scored in double figures. Like it's just
he needs space. He can't create it, and the Cardinals basically place him in a cage. They put Marvin Harrison in a slightly bigger cage farther downfield on the other side, and then Trey McBride is all that there's left to do.
The Cage offense, not even like the Nick Cage offense.
It's like they are actually playing on a field where they're like, we want to play like in the goal. We want to do goal line drill every play. We love having no room. We think it's great.
Just red zone drill constantly. So that kind of covers it in my mind. Although, is there any case in your mind for like grabbing Parker Washington late on like DraftKings where it's 20
last round? Yeah, especially on DraftKings and NFFC, which is 30. But I've taken him a couple times on Underdog because I had a Trevor stack going, and I was like, I have to dilute my Dyami Brown exposure to something less than 80%. So I'm going to take Parker Washington here. But he's just a slot guy. He's not really an outside guy like Brown. I do think Washington's on the field when Hunter is not, though.
Yeah, no, I think that there's utility there. I think Washington was really good in college, like not like unbelievable or anything, but I liked him a lot. Yes, so liked him at Penn State. I guess I liked Brenton Strange at Penn State, but as well. But I think Washington is a guy to watch, and I think that little factoid where like when Travis Hunter is not on the field, Washington could be the guy sliding in. So I need to grab some of him. I think on Underdog, I'm at 21% Brenton Strange, 17% Dyami Brown, and then just kind of mix and match minimal shares.
Those are responsible numbers, I think. I really do have to get my Dyami Brown exposure diluted more though, because I think even after my last few drafts, which I haven't taken him in, it's still at like 70 or something %. So that's too much, even in the 18th round.
I've been drafting like a madman, and I'm luckily like heading out on the old honeymoon tomorrow, so I will not be able to draft
Well
best
earned.
ball for 10 days. I need a cleanse, a detox before I go real crazy for like the entire rest of the summer. So that'll be good in the meantime. But I think that's going to do it for us here on this edition of the RotoWire Fantasy Football Podcast. A big thanks to our sponsors over at Circa, over at Fantrax, and over at Vegas Football Proxy. Again, if you haven't signed up at RotoWire yet, use our code YouTube15 to get 15% off any subscription. For Mario Puig, I'm John McKechnie. Thanks for listening.